Welcome to the Growing Old Disgracefully podcast. It's been a minute. Ruth, how are you?
I feel like we start all of our podcasts saying it's been a minute, but I think
know,
Andy
yeah.
and I have genuine reasons this time, don't we? Because
Yeah.
we've been scheduled in for the last 2 weeks with something alternating coming up. So.
Yeah, just your life just kicking you right in the nuts.
Yeah. So actually, they say you never work with children and animals. First week it was animals, and next week it was children for you, wasn't it? So
yeah,
they do tend to get in the way. But
they
here we
certainly
are.
do.
Yeah,
We're
here
back
we are.
at it.
Yes. And well, last time I spoke to Andy, last message, and when we were booking in the podcast a good couple of weeks ago, it was we said that we would chat about Manosphere, which I know isn't like the biggest topic going at the moment, but I still want to catch up and get Andy's view on that for sure. And then I think there's a few other things I could chat about. I've got an event this weekend this Friday that I'm doing. Talk about that as well. But anyway, Andy, how have you been?
I've been not too bad at all. Just living quietly. Been standard, I think. Standard. How about yourself? What have you been up to?
Well, it's been Easter, hasn't it? So we had family over and I consumed some chocolate, which was nice. And we still got loads of chocolate in the house. What about you? Have you done the whole chocolate?
We did a wee bit, but we're not. I'm not a massive chocolate fan. Laura is, and then the little man. He decides that he's going to get a bit angry if he doesn't get chocolate. So we try to keep chocolate kind of out of the house.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well,
but yes.
My eldest doesn't like chocolate at all, and I think my sister got him some dried mango because he likes dried mango, and then he got fudge from other people. He likes a bit. He likes some tablet when we're up in Scotland, but he likes fudge, but not chocolate. But my youngest really likes chocolate, but I didn't get an. Oh no, saying that I did. I'm telling a lie. I said I didn't get an Easter egg, but my mum bought me an Easter egg. But we didn't get loads, but there still seems to be just remnants of chocolate in the house. I don't know, nothing crazy though.
That's always a bonus.
Yeah. And actually, when you look, I know that people on a fat loss goal type thing, when you look at the weight of the actual Easter egg, not the stuff that comes with it, it's quite light. It's quite thin normally, unless you get one of the real luxury ones. There's no, it doesn't eat.
Well, also as well, you've got to remember that Easter eggs are not the same size as they used to be. So when we were kids, like an Easter egg was literally the size of your head, and now not so much. Exactly.
And the thing that I used to love about Easter eggs, and it wasn't only because I think you can get some like it now, but they're always the tiny ones, like the small ones. But you'd get big Easter eggs, and the stuff was always inside it. So you'd have to crack the egg open to get into the goodies. Whereas now it's like, here's the egg, and we've plonked the bars
in the box underneath.
Yeah, you could fit the packet of Rolos inside the eggs.
I don't know if this is just a me thing or if this is a Scottish thing, but I always used to crack my eggs by headbutting it.
Well, I don't know, but I said to my head. I don't know if that is a Scottish thing. I feel like that rings a bell. But I told my son that he had to do it with his biceps the other day. I said, bicep curl, you've got to break the egg in your biceps.
Nice. That's a good one.
Solid
that's one I might need to go and get one just now just to see if I could do it.
Well, I think they do. That's the thing. If it's not been in the fridge, then it's easy anyway. But yeah. I think it's actually probably easier than doing a normal egg because of the fact it's bigger. So, it's easier to crack.
That might be a good one to try, is cracking an egg with my bicep.
Well, this is where I was inspired. I was watching my algorithm now. I watched one funny reel that I showed to my husband that was this lady commenting on men playing rugby in the rain. And I was like, look at that. And now I get loads of rugby content, normally from a female perspective. Anyway, there were rugby players trying to crack an egg with their biceps. And I noticed that the bigger guys found it harder. And I think it was because where it sat, it wasn't quite getting the contact, and so you might find it harder. Whereas I wonder, I'll try it. I haven't tried it. Maybe I'll try it as well. I wonder whether I would find it easier because my biceps are smaller than yours.
That's a bottle, which is bigger than an egg, but I don't have any eggs. I don't have any eggs close
I think
by.
mine would be, I think I'd be a little camera lens for people not watching on video. Right. I reckon I think, apart from the fact that it's going to squash, I don't know.
I think I'd probably manage.
Yeah, I think I'd manage. But then these guys were thinking they'd manage. And I think the smaller guys maybe found it easier. Just
Slightly
saying.
easier, yeah.
I think that's a challenge, Andy. I'd love it if you couldn't. It would make me very happy.
We'll see. We'll try that this afternoon.
You
It's a
need to
nice
get
day, so
Laura to film you,
I can
please.
shower myself down if needs be.
Yeah.
We'll do it outside.
If you would, if you wouldn't mind, that would be great. But actually, I don't know. We like this last few days. I think not eaten loads of chocolate, but maybe a little bit more. And I've been up for my run, and I felt tired, and I was like, I feel like it's slightly out of routine with my nutrition fuel. I just feel a bit heavy. So I've got this event on Friday, and I'm like, actually, I need to feel a bit fresher for that, because today I was like, that felt hard.
Yeah.
And I think it's recovery in general. I think sleep, because since the clock's changed, that weirdly impacted me, and then nutrition the last few days.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting. Like I'm kind of still ticking along nicely, cut wise. My sleep's not been affected as yet, which is good. I'm just kind of waiting for that to happen, and then I'll need to start amending a few things around about it. So just bring in some more sleep protocol stuff. But decided to injure myself on Saturday training. So
not again.
I've done something to my shoulder this time. So I was benching too heavy. I knew, do you know what? It's weird because it's one of those ones where I was like, I know something's going to happen today. I'm like, I've just got that weird feeling that I'm going to get injured. And funnily enough, I did.
Was your mind on other things? Because I find that that's normally...
Not particularly, no, but I think because I'm just pretty, like, you'll be the same. You'll be kind of hyper aware of what your body's like. And I was just, I don't know, I think I just felt a bit tight. And it wasn't like my first set. It was like maybe 5 or 6 sets in, and I was like, that's not good. But managing to stick with the cut. So I'm down to my lowest weight of the cut now. So down to just over 97 kilos, which is just
below 100.
Yeah. So I'm 12 kilos down now, I think.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so it's going all right.
Most women will be cursing you at the moment for because
I've also remember I started at a much. This is the thing, though, isn't it? I started at a much heavier weight than I probably sit at generally. It's a bit of it's one of those kind of misnomers in terms of it's also slightly easier for a bloke to lose weight as well. I would say
you don't get the fluctuations in quite the same way because of hormones. I don't think either.
No, I think you're right, and I think that's it. I think it's just Do you know what? Here's an unpopular opinion for you. I think it's easier to cut than it is to bulk.
I think I'd just struggle mentally to do a bulk, like an intentional bulk.
It's the mental gymnastics that you've got to go through when you have to eat more than your body is comfortable with eating is not fun. Like I can go to an all-you-can-eat buffet like Fazenda or Rio, which are like basically these big steak houses that they just cut off the skewer and stuff, and I'll go to town. But doing that like once in a blue moon, I can manage. See, trying to do that each day when you're trying to eat that little bit more to try to keep yourself in a surplus, it's not fun. Like eating too much is shit.
Well, yeah, because if you think about how I'm feeling just after Easter, where I think I've been eating a little bit more, I don't feel great. But I guess the trick would be to do it slowly, to just add a little bit more and just do it slowly in the same way that you don't really notice that you're in a deficit so much if you're doing it in a slow and steady way. I've been focusing on fat loss recently as well, and I get the fluctuations, and I don't let them. Actually, I had a really you would have thought things aren't working, but I knew that it was the time where I would fluctuate, and then it just came back down again. And I seem to get a couple of points where that happens, but the other time I notice that weight fluctuates and comes back down really quickly isn't just if I've eaten a few more carbs. It can be when sleep's been impacted as well, and you can feel that tightness, a bit more inflammation in your body, and then I'll see my weight spike, and it always comes at a time where you're feeling a little bit shit anyway. And you're like, oh, great, of course, there it is. But luckily I've seen it so many times now that I know it will come back down. But it has reminded me how easy it would be for women to see that and think it's not working, because sometimes like last week, what was happening last week? I'd been away. That's it. I went away with my son. So I didn't weigh for a few days because I was away. So our cat died. So I didn't feel like I was fully focused on fat loss. I wasn't hitting fuck it, but I wasn't really focused that much. We went away. I was eating service station food, but again, wasn't hitting fuck it, but it wasn't as, I was like, these few days, probably be more like maintenance there just because of where I was eating. But then my weight just stayed the same after that traveling. And I was like, maybe I was eating more, because I was definitely in a deficit before I went. So maybe I was actually eating in an excess because this isn't coming down. And then suddenly it shot back down again. And I was like, okay. But even if I was at maintenance, I would have been okay with it. But I was confused because it had spiked up. And I was like, this isn't coming down. And then it just does. And the scales can be funny, and there will be times where you feel like you can fully focus all in, and other times where you're just a little bit more gentle in your approach. Like I'm having to think about that this week. So I was like, I don't want to go into the event on Friday feeling too like I have to balance it. So I still think I can be in a deficit this week, but I don't want to go in not fueled.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Nah, and I think it's one of those other ones as well. Like my cut's been going since the 5th of January. So we're January, February, March. So that's 4 months in now. 4 months
That's
in.
a healthy amount then.
Yeah, it's a nice simple one for me, because normally I'll do 12 kilos in 8 weeks, 6 weeks, just because I just go mental on that stuff. But like the weekend there, as much as I'm not a massive sweet tooth. Good carrot cake I'll take, but
love a carrot cake.
yeah, we ended up having a roast both Saturday night and Sunday. So I had a lamb shoulder on Saturday and then a brisket on Sunday. So my increase in calories was from kind of potatoes and meat and stuff. So that's kind of where, I kind of got a bit of a refeed across the weekend, which was quite nice. So actually coming back onto the cut again yesterday was actually quite nice. I was like, I feel pretty good. Bar the fucking injury, obviously.
So yeah, we need to talk a bit more about that. But firstly, Andy, what calories are you aiming for then, roughly?
Genuinely, I have no idea.
No, you don't need to know, do you?
Don't know. I haven't tracked in years. My biggest ones with like if someone's trying to cut weight, the biggest one is like a lot of it's simplicity and basically just being a bit more of an adult about your food. So for me, simplicity means I don't intermittent fast, but I have a shake first thing in the morning. So I have a protein shake about 5:30, 6 o'clock. And then that does me until lunchtime. So I don't have any food in the morning. I just have a shake, which is 30 to 35 grams of protein. Obviously some calories in there as well. It's just because it sets my schedule up better. I don't have the time. Yeah, I'm busiest in the morning. So actually try to find time to go and have a meal, probably just, it's more hassle than it's worth. So my first meal is lunchtime. It's basically the same every day. Like it's the same thing I have all the time. And then dinner's the one that kind of fluctuates a little bit, because that's the one that we have as a family together. So yeah, and a lot of it's just about portion control. So things like, if I've got wee man's with the mother-in-law today, but normally on the afternoon he'll have his nap. He'll get up, I'll make him a bit of toast, I'll get him some apples and some bits of blueberries and stuff. And it's just a reminder of, just because there's a bit of toast still on the plate, I don't need to eat that bit of toast. It's nothing to do with me. Which is it's tough, because I love toast and jam though. I love it. But it's not, that's his. I don't need to eat it to finish it off. And then just things like at night time is just like things like making sure portion control. I'm not having 2 helpings. I'm having 1 helping. I've got my yogurt, granola and raspberries before I go to bed, and that's me done. I don't need to eat anymore. So yeah, it's simplicity and structure.
It sounds like we're doing the same approach. I have to be honest, Andy. I don't track my calories either. However, I am aware of the calories in a lot of my meals because I have the same things on repeat. This is what I say to people, like mentally, I'm quite aware, but I focus on meals first, and then I have to be mindful about the extra things that I'm having. So I know that if I'm like you, I have fairly routine breakfast, pretty much the same thing. most days. It varies in the sense that I might go through stages of time where I'm like, oh, I'm obsessed by this breakfast at the moment, but at the moment it's this overnight oats. And then similar lunches that I often will have prepped something for lunch in advance. And then my evening meals is with the family and I eat with them. And, you know, again, I'm aware that we're having home cooked meals and aware of the portions of those. I'm not 100% always sure of the calories in that portion, but I know it's going to be fine, you know. So I and it works, you know, it does work.
Ballpark.
Yes. And it really does work. And then, you know, like I can look at the last kind of week and go, well, if I was at maintenance, so I am still in a deficit, it's just not probably as big as it has been when I'd had those quieter time going on. It's not the meals that will be doing it. It would be anything extra. And so then when you are looking, going, actually, I want to tidy things up a bit, you know exactly what you need to do. And I also think that approach that you're doing and the one I'm doing makes maintenance easier as well, because you're still eating those meals. Nothing's changing really much there. It's just you've tidied up a few of the things that had perhaps slipped when you'd gained a bit of the weight.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. I think I always find it much easier to cut than I do to try to put size on, because it's a much more simple process, and you can set it up. But I find I can set it up better rather than trying to find time for extra food and also just the feel of overeating. That's just it's not a fun place to be.
I don't know about you, but I feel better when I actually feel better for being in a bit of a deficit, you know, at the moment, all the changes I've made, because I'm fueling enough, you know, not overly restricting.
The other stuff that you notice as well, like I'm 12 kilos down, like I've added some more sprints and stuff into my training again, more explosive stuff, and you feel a shit ton better when you're 12 kilos lighter, that's for sure.
Well, it's going to make running easier, isn't it? For
Absolutely.
Sure. I did.
You're not dragging a caravan most of the time.
I saw that you'd put Cardino on your. You've been doing that.
Yeah, well, it was an interesting one. It was actually one of the lads that comes into the gym. I was chatting to him, and he goes, I saw an interesting. He's like, oh, have you been doing some sprints? I was like, yeah. He's like, I saw a really interesting statistic that, as you between the ages of 30 and 35, 95% of people will stop sprinting or will never sprint again, basically. So they'll never go full out on terms of like a sprint, whether it's sprint and running, whatever it is. But and it's not a research subject. I think a lot of it is more personally driven. It's one of those are anecdotal. But I was like, actually, that makes sense, because you know, you see your friend circle that maybe train, they get to a certain age and then they start doing things like marathons or long cycling or things like that. Everything's longer and sort of lower probably lower impact, impact on the joints and stuff. So and I don't want to be that person. I kind of want to be a bit of an outlier. I've always been different. So I was like, fuck it, let's just add some sprints back in.
Yeah, and actually it's good for you to do that. And yes, it's higher impact, but then higher impact, it can be beneficial as well for the joints and the bone density and things like that. So as can carrying a bit more weight, that can be good for bone density as well.
Well, I've always had good calves when I've been heavier.
Yes. See, all the calves. That's what you need. I reckon I probably do more running now than I did in school. Even I was never a sprinter particularly. I know that I said I was never a sprinter. I'm sure if I'd practiced sprinting, I would have got better at it. But I've done a few my Tuesday runs until not today because I've got the event. But they've been more interval based. I've been just trying to up my pace a little bit on those. But women actually, this is like they get better at endurance. In particular, women get better at endurance as they get older. You often see particularly ultra running is where they'll start outperforming men over a certain distance, which is unusual because normally men will be faster than women, you know.
I think it's the whole pain threshold thing as well, though, isn't it? Women have got a higher pain threshold and they've got the ability to recover better and faster. with things like longer endurance style stuff.
I think and that's probably to do with as well the type of muscle. If you think about the slow twitch, fast twitch type thing, I expect women are going to be better because of that, and I think it's to do with the glycogen as well. I feel like and don't quote me on this, anyone, but I feel that we use our fuel, we take from different fuel sources better, so we're better with the longer, slow releasey type things, I think.
Yeah.
And how we utilize fuel. But that would sort of make sense because of the amount of muscle mass that women have compared to men and how we're going to draw that. So it does sort of make sense. But don't get me wrong there, Andy. I'm not about to go and start running 100 miles because apparently I'd be good for it. I don't actually think my back would cope with that sort of distance anyway.
No.
There's always an exception to the rule, and I think it is me. But, the point is that we're all different. And actually, my husband, I would say that if you were, don't punch him, but if you were to probably punch him, he'd probably cope better than me at being hit. But when it comes to that low niggling pain, or if I was to cut myself or not feel very well or go running and it hurt, I reckon that I would cope better than him. There's like different types of pain, and I think I'm better at some. I don't know if all men are like that, but I'm not calling him a wimp.
But you just have.
But I have, yeah. I found a picture of a note that my son had written for my husband when he was like really little, because it was like proper, and it said, "Dear Daddy, I hope you get better from your man flu." So I think we know what I said to him was wrong with his dad. And he wrote him a note. He thought it was a genuine illness. So,
well, it is a genuine illness, and you'll never know what that illness is like.
No, I won't. Thankfully, although I'm very careful about saying it now, because I'm like, what if I get it? And then I'm going to feel really bad for saying that, it's just man flu. But there have been a couple of times where he's got ill and I haven't. And I'm like, that's got to be
my immune system's better.
And talking about men, Andy, did you enjoy the Manosphere documentary?
I think the word "enjoys" an interesting word to use. I found it very interesting. I think it was. I'm not going to say eye-opening because it's kind of sad, actually.
Really sad.
I think it's kind of sad. It's let's just go nail down into it. So you've got a bunch of guys who claim to be alpha men who have got social media handles like HS TikToky, like the least alpha man name I've ever heard in my fucking life. Oh, like his mum, literally, he's under the thumb with his mum. So being an alpha male, yeah, I'm sure that's right. I kind of liken it a little bit to, it's basically a human Ponzi scheme, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of grifters that are basically, one person stands at the top, and if he can manage to get 10 below him to buy into his bullshit, and then they have 10, each of them has 10 below them. It's just a big Ponzi scheme, and the person at the top makes the money. And that's just, I don't know if any of them actually believe the shite that they're spouting.
The HS TikToky, he seemed like a kid to me, like the way that
that's
he was
the
talking,
issue. They're all kids. Bar the guy
in America, Justin.
The guy, yeah, he's not.
No, I mean, he was saying some stuff that I thought was very strange. But then when he was talking about that, there was one bit he was saying, I think that women want to stay at home. And they said, what if they don't? And he went, that's fine. And I thought, yeah, there probably are women who don't want to go to work, who are having to. That's probably happening. There's probably women that do and are. That's not normal. I think what we have here is the extremes. Like I was saying to my husband, I think, some men being men and understanding that is different perhaps than what women do is absolutely fine. But it's always going to be the extreme. So you hear people that go, no, we're pushing back because boys aren't allowed to be boys anymore. It's like, no, you're pushing back against the extreme people that are trying to say that boys shouldn't be boys anymore. They're pushing back.
And that's the issue with social media. So you've got a young lad, say you've got a 13, 14-year-old kid who's watching social media, right? So the algorithm basically gives him the ultra and I don't mean this in any disrespect to feminists, but the ultra Nazi feminists that are basically saying that young men are scum, they're the problem with the world, they're
The
everything
men
that's wrong with the
haters.
world, and they just basically hate men. So he's listening to this going, fucking hell, man, like there's something wrong here. But then on the other side, you've got these fucking idiots like Andrew Tate and these fucking tosspots that are basically telling him that he can be better, they're empowering him. So the Jimmy Carr put this one best. Jimmy Carr was asked this because Jimmy Carr does a wee bit of stuff in his comedy shows where basically gets a question from the audience.
Oh,
And
yes, he does.
what he said was the message is terrible, but the message is terrible, but the vehicle the vehicle for the message is perfect. Men need three things, as far as I'm concerned. Men need the three P's. They need proactivity, productivity, and positivity. And you can tap into anybody like that. If you can make it positive and it's productive and proactive, young men will be like, I'll jump on that, because they just want something to be able to grab
Bit
onto
of
and do.
purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, purpose. Like I I have fortunately never had any mental health issues in my life. I find myself very fortunate to say that. The closest I can imagine, and the closest I think I came was during COVID, was when I had to shut the studio. The studio was shut for the best part of a year. I had no productivity. I wasn't doing anything. Like, yeah, I was working with online clients, but I work with people in person in a gym. That's what I do. It's what I love. And that's the closest I've probably been to being, I would have said I was a bit down, but I can understand where that comes from. Like, I didn't have the productivity I had before. So, I think the sad thing is that young men are latching onto something that's positive and productive and proactive. But the problem is that the message that these things that part of it's given is total shit. Like, the message that they're putting over is absolutely terrible. But as I say, the vehicle that they've lined it up with is exactly how you should be speaking to young men. If you want young men to be better, don't whinge and bitch at them. Give them positivity, give them productivity, get them to reach for stuff, to go out and achieve. That's how you make it work.
And also on the flip, I would say that when they're pushing back against the feminism kind of thing, but most, I would say that everyone can be a feminist, in the sense that what I would consider a feminist is somebody that wants the opportunities to be equal and the pay and so on, for men and women, not for one to have to push the other one down in order to succeed. It's not, if we want to succeed, they need to do worse, or the other way. But there is a radical form of each. So you've got the radical manosphere and you've got radical feminism, which are the people that really feel that men are the enemy. But actually, if we're just, and I agree.
Sadly, they're the loudest on social media, because that's the stuff that is, we were discussing beforehand that you've had a couple of reels that went viral. These are the things that go viral, and that type is the stuff that's ultra fucking horrific. On either side. It's so polarizing. That's the stuff that gets the traction on social media, because it gets clicks. It's basically clickbait. That's the sad thing. That's what people see. They see the majority of that. The documentary itself, I did find a lot of it quite funny though. So, as I say, extremely alpha male names like HS Tiki Toki. It's like my 2-year-old can come up with a more alpha male name than that, for fuck's sakes. Then you've got stuff like, I don't know if you remember the bit where he's with HS Tiki Toki and he's in the gym, and they're like taking the piss out of Louis Theroux for like his bicep curls, and then Louis Theroux delivers one of the most fatal knockout punches that I've ever heard. Was the return and goes, "Do you not think your calves need some work?" Yes. I was just like, "Oh, how are you going to come back from that? That's an absolute belter."
But he did just take it, didn't he? He went, "Yeah, that's fair," or something. Yeah. I think, but yeah, Louis, like, that was the thing. So watching it as like an actual grown-up rather than a child, the only thing they seemed to be able to go at Louis Theroux for was the fact that they kept saying he was friends with Jimmy Savile, whereas anyone that knows anything about Louis Theroux knows that he did a documentary. Like, that's what he does.
He outed them. He outed them. Yeah.
He goes to him. He went and he's done loads of ones like this,
Let's
right?
let's be honest with you. If Louis Theroux phoned you up today and said, "Do you want to be in a documentary?" your first answer is, "What the fuck have I done that's going to get me on a Louis Theroux documentary? Because this isn't good. This is not ending anywhere other than me looking like an absolute chump." So yeah, it was.
There's only one reason. He goes to people,
and it's not usually. It's not a positive thing.
So then, if he's friends with Jimmy Savile, he's also friends with you. Then he's your mate. You know
exactly. What does that tell you?
Yeah,
what does that tell you, really? Yeah.
But it's always awkward, isn't it? Louis Theroux, because he's quite happy to say things, and you're like, "Oh, this is so awkward."
He says something and then just lets them fill in the space, which is exactly how, like, something I've always done is like you give them a little bit of bait and then just let them drop themselves in it. It's always a good way to do it. Just sit back and listen. Like, that's what we've got. One mouth. We've got one mouth, two ears. You should be doing more listening than you should be doing talking. And the problem is, these idiots are doing more talking than they are listening, and that's one of the reasons that all happens. But some of the kind of thought processes behind, this is another. I'm not trying to denigrate anybody who makes their living from OnlyFans, but I'm going to be honest with you. They're not exactly picking. They're not picking the cream of the crop in terms of women to surround themselves with. It's as harsh as that. And I don't mean to sound harsh, because they might be PhDs, they might be rocket scientists. I don't know. But every female that you saw on any of those podcasts, really, that's what you're thinking that women should be? Because I don't agree with that.
He was saying that all the women apart from his mum are thick, and I was like, I just feel like maybe you're surrounding yourself with the type of women that would be happy to talk to you. Like, you're not attracting that,
Well, the thing is,
and I doubt they are the women that are talking to him. They're probably playing the game.
They're wanting to get more followers. They're wanting to get more subscribers to their OnlyFans. So they're playing the game. That's exactly it.
They know.
And that's exactly what this whole manosphere is. It's playing a game of grift. That's all it is. They're just they're taking your money off you. And we experienced this, the last 15 years in the fitness industry. We've seen this insurgence of business coaches, and we know there are a few very good business coaches out there, and then probably can name them on one hand, the ones that are actually any good, because we know them and we know what they can do. But the majority of them are total shite, and they're all. I would love to have get 50 business coaches, and let's see how you did as a personal trainer. Let me show me your books from when you worked as a personal trainer, and probably low percentile of them will have done well.
It seems to be a route that people go on. They do well on social media, like their PTs, they do well on social media, and then they start doing well on their online coaching business. Then they sell.
We get told that they're doing well on their online. You can go into company's house. You can go to company's house. You can go into anywhere that you can. They need to do a tax return. You can go and see what these guys make. And if you were to go and have a wee in-depth dive and do a little bit of due diligence, you'll find that it's not as exciting as you think it is.
No, but regardless, so that's what they tell you, and then they start doing business coaching, and it's not, it's
well. This is here, and this is the funny thing that I find. It's the same thing with these guys that are on the Manosphere and stuff. They're turning and saying you can make £100,000 as a personal trainer, right? Okay, because I did it. It's like, well, you didn't do that. What you've done is it's basically Herbalife and fitness, MLM marketing and fitness, like a fit business coach are the same thing. So with Herbalife and Juice Plus and all these MLMs, what they've done is they've targeted a market where people are in desperate need of losing weight, and they're to the point where they're beyond all help. They're just desperate to get in to do anything to help them get in to lose some weight. So what do you do? Oh, I'll sell you these protein shakes. It's a really easy fix. It's a protein shake. It'll help you lose weight. We all know how it works. We all know that you can do it much more simply and much cheaper doing it the slightly longer way, but everybody sells into that. The business coaches are exactly the same. Oh, I'll help you make 100 grand. Okay, so your 100 grand comes from 10 people because there's been an explosion of people that have been joining the fitness industry and they're all desperate to make it work. The numbers are still, if you get into the fitness industry, the numbers are still within the first year, 95 to 97% of people leave and go back to work in a 9 to 5 in an office because they don't make it. It's about 3 to 5% of people manage to last a year self-employed. And that's still, those numbers are still really high up there. So what these business coaches do are, I make 100 grand a year because you take on 10 people a year who all pay you 10 grand to try to help you become a fitness coach, and then it fucks up.
Well, do you know, I years ago, before I met you, I'd worked with a business coach, and not for very long, I might add, at that point. And I remember saying to him, because I wanted just to try and get a few more people online at that point, and I was saying to him, I could do with looking at that, whatever it was again, and could do with getting a little bit more income at that point. And all he told me to do was put my prices up. And I was like, that doesn't help you get clients. That just the people that, it didn't make any sense to me. So anyway, I stopped working with him, and that was fine. And I'm glad I did, because actually, on the whole, what I've realized is that you've got to trust your gut, and what you're asking people and working with people, it's got to be something that you feel sits with your values, doesn't it?
Well,
and you can be true to it, not what some business coach tells you to do.
It's the same as like the Manosphere thing. These guys, I think if I remember rightly, did you see the numbers that was like quoted by Mr. Beast about how he has to keep himself at the front of YouTube? He basically, the money that he makes a month all of it gets reinvested back in keeping him at the top of the, and that's the same as these people, these business coaches or these wanks on the Manosphere. Everything's rented, everything's hired. So they don't own anything. They rent their Ferrari, they're paying stupid amounts of money. In fact, there's a business coach that started up here who was using one of his clients who had a personal training client who had a very nice house, and he was using that house as if it was his own and videoing all his content in that house like it was, this is my house, it's really cool. How nice is this? You could be this person if you put the effort and put the work in. It's like, mate, you're not even that person. Like, what are you talking about?
And actually, that was a post I saw today. There's a guy called Dave Fell Fitness. I actually, it was his reel. I stitched one of his recipes, but he started off, and he's in Australia at the moment, going, I'll show you how to get rich. It was tongue in cheek in the end, but when you first watch it, you kind of go, this, and he's buy this nice house. And he went, I'm going to get your review. Like, that's not my car. I'm not even renting that car. Actually, that's just my friend's renting that car. This house is an Airbnb that we're staying in as a group in Australia. And none of this is real. And this is the problem with social media, is I can make it so easily look like this is my life. And actually what I realized, and he talked about the manosphere, and he was like, what makes me a good man or human is those connections I have with people, it was all of those things. And I think men and women want, in that way, we want the same thing. We are likely going to be different in how we show it or whatever, although I think I know
as we should be, because we are different. We're massively different from each other.
I mean,
we have different strong points, different weak points. Simple.
My husband's definitely the more huggy in our family, I think, than me.
I'm definitely the more emotional in our family. Laura's like a pure, she's a proper ice queen. Like,
I think that's probably similar in our family.
I think it's because I'm 9 years older than her though. Like, I hit midlife, and when women hit midlife, they get sort of the menopause. I've definitely got the menopause, because like, I cry at most things now. I'll be sitting watching Toy Story with Finley, and something happens, they get left behind, and I'm sitting going, oh my God, what's happening?
The thought of you and my husband together, you'd be like,
Jesus.
I do feel sad about things, but I'm just not very good at then like crying. Sometimes I'm like, I could do with a good cry. It would make it better. Like, I'd probably feel like this release, but it's almost like, and I don't know if this is a mum, because when I was younger, I would cry at things, but it's like when our cat died, like, we were upset, and I was upset, but it was almost seeing everyone else upset around me made me go, it's not my place to be upset now. This is then, and I can't help it, but it's almost like I just go into that. So my husband was happy to have a cry about it, and I felt like crying, and I could feel it, But I thought it was like, as soon as he does, and as soon as one of the boys does, then I'm like, oh no, that's it. I'm on
Hard as
problem
nails.
solving mode. Oh,
Hard as
he's
nails.
like, if you cry, it takes a lot to break her, but you can. That's what
You can't like that.
Push her hard.
All right then.
Manosphere, no. But like it will take a lot. When I was pregnant, I cried. That was a shock to people because I was very emotional when pregnant.
Laura was the same, and I'm like that, going, "Who the fucking hell am I? Who the fuck are you? Like, you did? Do I know you?"
Yeah. It's just, but I think that's probably like, I think that my husband's sounds like he's more like you with his emotions. I'm probably a bit more like Laura, but I think that's why you probably get on, because of the fact that you need softening. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm really caring, and I'm just not a crier.
Yeah, no, a lot. You and Laura are very similar.
Ways.
Yeah, she's very family orientated, very loyal, very caring. And I'm just like a blubbering wreck.
Yeah, I think it's nice, but this is the thing.
I think it's fun. I think it's funny though. I find it hilarious. I catch myself at times going, why am I getting so upset? It's a fucking cartoon, for Christ's sakes.
I mean, the story is quite sad,
Yeah.
Although I did see a quote the other day, and it said, no, not a quote, it was something a child had said, in Toy Story, if Andy's toys died, would he carry on playing with them and not know?
That's a good one. And then there was the other one. There's another one as well that's like, it's a picture of Buzz and Woody looking like massively shocked, and it's like, Andy's toys have just found Andy's mum's toys. You're like, oh wow.
See, that's like, Pixar is for grown-ups and children, isn't it? And I wouldn't put it past them to have those shocked faces.
You do know that in most of the Disney films there are those little Easter eggs like that.
Yeah.
Like Lion King, when it flops into the sand and then the dust comes up, it says SEX. And the rescuers, when they're coming down in the Seagull, and the rescuers in one of the windows, there's a couple having sex. Like, there's loads of stuff like that and all these things that they've stitched them in.
They've got to make it fun for the parents as well, haven't they? That's the
absolutely thing. I think it's more fun for themselves. What can we hide in here?
But this is the thing, right, with the Manosphere. Like, men are allowed to cry and do those things and be emotional at Toy Story and still be men. And I think that my husband said that sometimes he feels like he isn't allowed to comment on, whether that's a good or bad thing with the Manosphere, because it's like, oh, I'm not a man that's going against that.
That's the complete, and that's what a lot of people, that's what these people will tell you, that women think that men should be keeping quiet about stuff. It's not. Either side polarized, finding it, and then everybody else in the middle. I was very lucky. I kind of tail end a generation, and my dad, the generation above me, was very much you don't show emotion, you don't show, they're a real tough generation. And obviously my granddad's generation above that, even harder. I was really lucky. My dad, because it was just me and my dad, and I didn't have a mother figure in there, my dad was really good with that stuff. Like, he was like, look, if you ever need to speak, you just talk about it. He goes, you don't keep things to yourself. I was always very analytical about things like football and sport that I played, because my dad would always ask me, and he's like, look, we always talk about it, tell me how you're feeling, tell me how you feel you need to move forward. So I was really lucky in that. He's like, my dad's like proper old school. He was a bit of a character back in the day. That's all I'm going to say about that one. But he was. But I was very lucky in that respect. I've never ever been one to kind of, and I hope that Finlay picks that up as well, is the fact that, the polarized side of everything, it's always going to look shit. Everybody, the majority of people that sit in the middle, we're all here for each other. At the end of the day, we're all going the same fucking direction. And sadly, at the moment, the fucking world's an absolute shit show. So we should be fucking backing each other up and helping each other.
But in any form of these sorts of views, and I'm going to put it out there and say it's the same with sexism, with racism, with political views that we have, as well, is that the extreme on one end will say all people like that are like this, and then the extremes on the other end will be all of those people are like that, and there's no maneuvering. But actually, like, that's not the case at all. There's always,
and that's
people
the
are
thing. It's
creating these views that are just so polarizing.
yeah, and that's it. It's just it's and that's what. But the thing is, that's what sells social media is polarization. You know, that's the only. It's the thing that you're going to see is the polarized side of stuff. You don't see anything in the middle. Why? Because it's fucking boring. Like
I know the grey.
we're boring. Simple as that. It's the same with,
Yeah.
you know, we say this regularly about, you know, you see these fitness influencers doing some stupid ass exercises in the gym. Why does it get more airtime than, because it gets more airtime because a squat, a bench and deadlift aren't sexy. They're not anything to
Well,
write home about.
Andy, I didn't wash my rice in my recipe reel, and it turns out that is quite polarizing. It was for casserole, so
Who the
it was going into.
fucking
But that you
washing
don't.
your
You
rice?
actually like so traditionally years and years ago, you would have needed to wash your rice because it would have had like trace of
Aye,
arsenic and
mud
things like that in
and
it,
shit
and
in
mud
it.
and shit and things like that. And now it's mainly about texture that you'd wash it. And if you're having it in a casserole, sometimes you want a bit of that texture.
I have never washed rice, and my rice is always perfectly fluffy
And you're
and
alive.
amazing. And I'm alive, yeah. And
Yeah.
funnily enough,
Well,
I've eaten rice all the way through my cut as well. Funny that, isn't it?
whew. Yeah, somebody
Oh,
actually commented on a reel I made and said, "Oh, a bit too high carb, a bit too many carbs for fat loss." I'd cut out, and then it was the carbs, and I actually said, "Just curious to know why you would think that you need to cut out all the carbs," but they didn't reply. Weirdly,
yeah.
but again, it was
I ain't got no
interesting.
time to wash fucking rice. Go fucking ram it.
Well, it upset a few people, and but it was interesting. But again, so you say polarizing views. You can find
Yeah.
other ones. You get the
Oh,
the rice
white
washers,
rice.
yes, and the non. But yeah, I'm all for easy life anyway. So
Yeah, that's it.
I'll wash it if
You
I
know.
need to, and I won't if I don't. I do sometimes, actually, Andy. I'm going to be
Well,
honest
to be
there.
fair, I don't wash it, but like I'll cook my rice, then I'll rinse it with hot water. So like it's boiling hot water, and then I'll literally sit it on top of a boiling pan of hot water and let it steam for 5, 10 minutes.
It goes fluffy then. Fluff
It
it
goes
up.
nice and fluffy. It's perfect. Absolutely
Mm.
superb.
That's what we used to do. But actually then when I started, I just started cooking it. That was in something, but then I started doing it. So I just put it in the pan and then it would just have all the water in it, and that's when
Yeah,
you then
yeah.
maybe rinse it and fluff it up. But hey, apparently we are doing it all wrong anyway, because I think we get quite scared of eating rice that's cold as well as Westerners.
Well, is there not?
I
It's
did get food poisoning from rice once, and it was nasty. But that was, in hindsight, it didn't taste right when I was eating it.
that might have been
Well,
an
no, it
idea.
was fresh. I'd made it in the morning, and I'd cooked up like this chicken and bacon and mushroom, and I'd stirred it into this rice that I'd cooked. But I put it in I was at uni at the time, put it into my packed lunchbox, and when I was eating it, I thought it's quite wet, and I'd put it in there hot and left it in my bag. And so the bacteria, I think, in the rice had just done its thing. It was not, I didn't cool the rice before I did it. And yeah,
It's
I
tasting a
got
bit
ill.
funky.
It was just, the texture is wrong. Alarm bells should have rang, but they did not. I powered on through, Andy, and then got quite sick.
That is not fun. That is a learning
No.
lesson right there, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. Manosphere is a topic that I feel like there's a pushback from the other way, because I was talking to my boys about it. They're 14 and 16. They're prime Manosphere thing. And he went, "Oh, I think it's my eldest." He was like, "Oh, no one cares about them anymore. Like they're done. They were
Yeah,
like, oh, they're
yeah.
not
I've heard
like
exact.
people."
I've heard exactly the same thing from a few clients with their kids being the sort of similar ages, like maybe like 18, 19, 20, around about that age, and they're like that, going, "Fucking, these guys are idiots," and you're like, "Yeah." The
Yeah, they're
problem
growing.
is
My boys have grown out of them at 14 and 16. So they'd heard of
that's
them before, I
kind of
think.
tells you all you
But
really need to know, doesn't it?
yeah,
When you've grown out of
yeah,
them at 14 years old, that's
yeah.
you've grown out of that. Yeah.
I think when they were younger, boys were talking about them quite a lot. So even though they weren't like into it, they were hearing about it. But I think one of them in particular, my youngest, was like, "Oh, he's not really a thing anymore." Like it was the guy that was in he had a, I think he's gone. Did they say he's gone to Islam or something? Feel like he's done that. There was a guy that was abroad and he'd been banned from YouTube and his I forgot what he was doing. That he was on there, but he wasn't on there as much as the rest on the documentary. And after
Yes,
was like,
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah,
he was like, "Oh no, he's not really he's not something that people even talk about anymore." And he's like, the other ones, everyone knows they're stupid. Like nobody really is into that.
If kids that are starting to, kids aren't stupid. As simple as that. They kids are very like Finley's like that. He's just over 2, and he knows when someone's a wrong un or someone's a good un. He literally ignores people if he doesn't like them. But
I'm scared of meeting him now.
Similar to his dad, he's a pretty good judge of character. That's all I'm going to say.
We've got a collie staying with. I think my vibe will go off, and I'm like, I'm just not sure about that person. But we've got a female collie staying in the house at the moment that we're looking after, and I feel like she's a bit like that. She's a bit like
collies
I'm not
are.
sure about you.
Collies are extremely smart. We had a collie when I was a kid. She was a sheepdog, but she was actually a cow dog. She worked with bulls and cows more than anything else. She was one of I would probably class her as being slightly psychotic in terms of like
that's what this one's a bit like.
Sociopathic manipulator. Real, like, and I mean, like, if there was going to be a documentary on evil dogs, she would have been one. Like, her name was Moss. She was honestly an amazing dog. I remember probably when she was about 10 weeks old, she would be rounding up like me and a couple of friends were playing in one of the fields opposite my house, and she was rounding us up like she would sheep.
Nipping your heels.
Having never seen a sheep in her life before, she was rounding us up and bringing us back to the gate. They are. Yeah. She was a different. They're a different breed. Like, you think that dogs are smart, you don't know a dog's smart till you've dealt with a collie. A collie is different levels.
I had collies, and I thought I was really good at training dogs. And then I got a German Wirehead Pointer.
They train you. Yeah, they train you.
I was like, oh, this is quite different. Because my first dog, Coco, I could train her to do anything because she got it. And so I could train her to shut the door because she just knew that I was trying to teach her something. There's no way I'd get Mycroft to do anything like that at all. And the male collie that we had, her son, he was smart, but not in the same way that she was. I feel like the female collies, like they're always watching. They're less.
Male collies have got a little bit more balls than brains. We got it from one of my. Do you know how you've got family, or not family, but you've got like friends of your parents that you would call uncle and auntie and stuff. Yeah. So my Uncle Robert was a dairy farmer through in Paisley, and we got our dog Moss from him. Moss's half brother was called Jip. He was still quite smart, but he was also like his sister, her half sister. She would be like really smart about how she would round up the dairy cows and stuff. And with dogs, they're not allowed to bite dairy cows, because you can spoil the milk and can affect the production of milk. Jip wasn't that bright, so what he used to do was he used to catch them by the tail and swing on their tails. So he would catch them halfway at the tail and basically swing back and forward on the tail to get them moving. So he was much more brawn than brains. Yeah, female collies are they're a different
this
level.
One, you can see her she's 12, and they said that she'll show her teeth, but it's not like she's going to bite or hurt people. It's almost like a just grumpiness to her.
She's like,
and
didn't bother me.
Yeah, I mean, poor Mycroft, he just has to walk past her, and she's like, Urgh. And just not
our
keen.
Dog Moss, she hated other dogs. There was two dogs in her whole life that she liked. One was a black lab, and one was a Jack Russell, and it was because the three of them used to go hunting together, go off finding rabbits and stuff. Any other dog you got within 6 feet, and she would be literally teeth barking and chasing them like crazy. She's a lunatic. But
they are. I mean, I love collies,
smart.
but it would put me off in the nicest way. I love having my friends' collies and so on, but it has made me kind of go, I don't know if I'd want to go back to having another collie at the moment, because you just can't tell which breed part of the traits you're going to get from the line. So I had a really nice collie who I then bred, and I knew the parents of that collie really well, whereas now I feel like I don't know how you know you're going to get those characteristics and not the slightly neurotic psycho characteristics.
You have to be. I would always say as well, you have to be a pretty experienced dog owner to get a collie. You see a lot of issues with people that have their first dog's a collie because they just don't realise how switched on they are.
Coco was my first dog and she was a collie, but I think because I was like 21 when I got her, and she came everywhere with me, Andy, like did everything. Then I took her to agility, not because I was into agility, but I wanted to work her mind. So I decided that, and that's all I needed to do, give her mind games and training. I had all that time to give to her, but I think if I didn't have that time, then it would be much. And actually, we are getting a puppy, Andy. I haven't told you this.
What are you going to get?
We're getting a lab cross Staffy, which is apparently quite a nice cross. Yeah, so a lab. Well, it could end up looking like anything, couldn't it? It could be like a really short lab, but
or a hairy Staffy.
Yeah. Whereas what I think they have her sister. What I think it will be is like that slightly broader nose, a little bit stockier head, looking.
Staffies are great dogs.
They really are, but they're not
known as the nanny dog back in the day, which I always found. They're always
got a bad rap.
They got a bad rap because same with XL bullies, generally jakies and folk that don't know how to deal with dogs that have them. Sad that way, but they were in the Georgian times, the Georgian era, the Victorian era. They used to use them. They basically used to stay at home and look after the kids when the parents went out gallivanting. So they're good dogs.
They're really good, and I would have got just a straight Staffy, but running wise, they're just these balls of muscle, and they can struggle with that endurance.
Short and sharp. They run round. They're like a ball of mentalness. Endurance wise, they're a bit like me, to be fair. Chunky and funky, but athletic, but not much of an engine on them.
Maybe fast twitch kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I thought. My plan is, although he does look quite a chunky boy, but my plan is that the Labrador would give him a bit more endurance. Just a little. I don't care if he can't do my long runs with me, but it'd be nice to be able to take him a bit.
It's just the training side of it, though, isn't it? If you get them out and get them running, they'll probably be absolutely fine, and they'll adapt it. Similarly to humans, you can change you can change how you train depending on what methodology you want. You just need to train into that position.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Like people say, oh no, Staffies would be fine. I think if you get a finer Staffy, it would probably be okay. But well, you know what? We'll find out.
That's exciting.
Who knows? It is exciting, but we'll also go through puppy stage again, which I'm not sure.
Shitting and pissing on the floor.
It's going to be a shock for Mycroft. He's nearly 12, and he's going to be like, "What have you done?"
What's he like with other dogs? Is he pretty good?
It's funny because out walking, he's always been a bit reactive, and walking Mycroft is like after having the collies, I could just go out for a walk and switch off.
Yeah,
it was quite a shock because he'd be quite reactive. But in the house, weirdly, any friends, dogs, anything, he's absolutely fine. So he'll be fine. He loves the puppy. He'll love the puppy. But I am actually probably going to have to walk them separately because he's 12, so he doesn't have loads anyway. Because I don't want it to pick up on his reactivity because I just can't have another reactive dog. I don't want to do that again. It's hard work. I mean, I love him a lot, but he is a bit of an arsehole when he wants to be.
I think it's an age thing as well. Akira's she's 13 this year, and it's exactly the same. She had a bad experience with another dog, and she became quite a grumpy. And she's now coming up for a 13-year-old grumpy lady. So it's just one of these things that happens, sadly. So,
but it is. But
in dog years, 12 will be what 70, 80, 83. It's a fair age.
84.
I'd be a 84. I'd be a grumpy prick as well, to be fair.
I mean, it is fair. And like, I don't know what yours is doing, but Mycroft at nearly 12, he still comes and does my 5K runs with me.
Akira's like, she literally does like the block, and she's like, I'm fucking done now. I can't be asked for this chat.
I think he's getting to the point where he can't do much because his back legs are starting, like when he's going up and down the stairs, I've noticed that.
Yeah, she's like that as well.
Worse now. Yeah, it's just recently. So we'll bring on a new running friend, hopefully. And then Mycroft can be just for the hugs.
That's it. That's it.
Anyway, oh look, Andy. Well, I don't know how much fitness content we've put in there, but we've chatted a lot of manosphere type stuff. Bit of fat
And
loss at the
dogs.
beginning, and then dogs.
Yep.
Man's best friend and woman's. But
Exactly. Sorted.
yeah, exactly. What's there not to like? Anyway, well, look, I hope your injury gets better.
Yeah, we'll see. It's getting better. It's feeling. It's not feeling like it was on Saturday anyway, so I can move it now,
Just too
which is
strong.
good. So, well, probably not strong enough, but
Too much
we'll work on
muscle.
that at some other point.
So it got in the way. The muscle got in the way. That's what I always. You're saying I've got too much muscle. Anyway, well, do you want to do the not usual?
As always, if you've enjoyed the podcast, drop us a little rating. 5 stars is always good. It just helps us to become a bit more viewable to anybody that may want to listen in. Also, if you're listening, tag us, screenshot, tag us both on social media. Ruth is at Ruth Mac, MAC, fit, and I am _Wolfpack. And we will catch you next time.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Ciao.